This story is a fictional narrative inspired by real-life emotions and everyday experiences. The doctor had just said, "Congratulations, you're pregnant," when my husband grabbed me and started crying like a little kid. But me, I just stood there frozen, gripping the exam table. Because I knew the baby wasn't his. It was Daniel's. Daniel, my sister-in-law's ex-husband. 3 years. It had been 3 years since me and Michael went bankrupt, lost our house, lost everything. 3 years since Michael's sister Emily let us move in with her, then loaned us $200,000 to get back on our feet. That money saved our family. But it also destroyed Emily's marriage, because the more she loaned us, the closer her husband Daniel got to me. And the closer he got, I don't even want to think about it. Emily got divorced. Emily got depressed. And me, I thought I'd escaped. I thought I could just move on, bury the past, be a good wife to Michael and a good sister-in-law to Emily, even though we barely talked anymore. Then this pregnancy showed up. A week later, my mother-in-law threw a party to share the good news. She was over the moon. I'd never seen her smile like that. My father-in-law, too. He patted Michael on the back, chuckling. Finally, I'm going to be a grandpa. Michael just stood there, grinning all night, his arm never leaving my waist. I smiled, too. But my smile felt like someone had sliced my face open and stretched it. My cheeks were stiff, my palms were sweaty. Then Emily walked in. I spotted her from across the room, past the kids running around the living room. She was thinner than the last time I'd seen her. Her blonde hair looked dull and brittle, dark circles under her eyes, wearing this baggy sweater that just hung off her like she was all bones. But she was trying to smile, that kind of smile you learn after 3 years of depression and therapy. "Emily, come here," my mother-in-law waved. "Did you hear? Sarah's pregnant." Emily walked closer. Her eyes dropped to my stomach. I stepped back half a step without thinking, my hand flying to my belly, protecting it, hiding it. I didn't even know. "You're pregnant?" Emily's voice was soft. "Happy for you." God, she said she was happy for me. Like the last 3 years never happened. Like I wasn't the reason she lost her husband. "Yeah, thanks," I mumbled. The room got awkward fast. My mother-in-law jumped in. "Come on, sit down and eat. Let me get you a plate." But Emily just stood there, still looking at me. Then she asked this totally normal question, the kind anyone would ask a soon-to-be mom. "What are you naming the baby?" I hadn't slept all week. My head had been spinning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that night, saw Daniel at the supermarket, saw the way he looked at me, saw the way I gave in. And now, when Emily asked, my brain just broke. I opened my mouth. A name slipped out before I could stop it. "Daniel." The second I said it, I wanted to bite my tongue off. Too late. Emily's face went white. She stumbled back a step, grabbing a chair for balance, almost falling. The whole room seemed to freeze. My mom-in-law from the other table laughed it off. "She means David, right? Or Daniel's a nice name too. Your son's Michael, so Daniel works, not the same." But Emily wasn't listening anymore. Her blue eyes were staring at me, boring into me. A look I'll never forget. Not angry, not screaming. It was like someone just lit a candle in a dark room and suddenly saw a dead body under the bed. She turned and walked out without a word. I stood there, hands shaking. Michael was still laughing with his mom in the kitchen. He hadn't noticed a thing. That night I lay in bed, hand on my stomach. It wasn't big yet, just a little bump. I stared at it in the dark, wondering, who are you? Are you me and my husband's kid, or are you proof of my screw-up? Michael was next to me, snoring softly. Sleeping like a baby, still smiling, because he was going to be a dad. Looking at him, tears just started falling. Not sobbing, just rolling down my temples onto my pillow, cold and wet. Then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up in the dark. Emily. My heart stopped. I stared at her name, at the message, and I knew everything was about to blow up. But I still answered. Not answering would have been worse. "Hello?" My voice was raspy. Silence on the other end. Long enough, I thought she'd hung up. Then her voice came through. Not angry, not accusing. It was so quiet, it was creepy. "Hey, I just have one question. Tell me the truth, okay?" I swallowed. My throat was dry, my heart was pounding so hard I was afraid it'd wake Michael. "Okay," I barely managed. When did you and Daniel start seeing each other? The question hit me like a ton of bricks. I wanted to say never. I wanted to deny it. I'd had a lie ready for 3 years. No, Emily. Nothing happened between me and Daniel. You're wrong. But my mouth was dry. The lie got stuck in my throat because I remembered that night. 5 months ago, when I was alone at the grocery store, when I ran into Daniel by the wine aisle. He looked at me, asked how I was, said, "I miss you." Just those 3 words. And me, weak, lonely, drowning in guilt over that $200,000 debt to Emily. I didn't push him away. I started. "Don't lie to me, Sarah." Emily cut me off. Her voice was shaking, but she was holding it together. "Back when you were staying at our house, I saw things. The way Daniel looked at you, those accidental touches, I saw it all. But I chose to trust you. Guess I was stupid." I squeezed my eyes shut. Memories from 3 years ago came flooding back like a dam breaking. That house, Emily and Daniel's house, where me and Michael lived for 6 months. Emily was so good to us back then. Not just letting us stay for free, but cooking, doing laundry for us. Some nights I'd cry after debt collectors called, and Emily would hold me, pat my back like I was a kid. "It's okay. You'll get through this." And Daniel, he watched me. When Emily was at work, when Michael was out looking for jobs, he'd look at me the way a brother-in-law shouldn't look at his wife's sister. And me? Did I push him away? Sometimes I'd smile back. Sometimes I didn't step back. Until one rainy night when Michael was away, when Emily was asleep. "Emily, let me explain," I whispered, even though I knew there was no explanation left. "Don't bother." She hung up. "Beep, beep, beep," echoed in my ear. I kept the phone there, like somehow Emily would say more. But no. I lay there in the dark. Michael beside me still sleeping, occasionally smiling in his dreams. I looked at his face. This man who'd never done anything wrong to me, who loved his wife completely, who adored his sister, and I felt like a monster. He doesn't know, I thought. Emily just found out, and if Emily tells him... I couldn't finish the thought. My hand gripped my stomach like I was protecting the baby from something, but protecting it from who? From me? Or from the truth that was getting closer every second? Outside, an ambulance siren wailed through the night. It ripped through the quiet darkness, ripped through my chest. I jumped, hugging my belly tighter. More tears fell. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I only knew that tonight I was lying here, caught between a husband dreaming of his baby and a truth waiting outside. And the baby inside me, it stirred just a little, like it somehow knew it was born from something wrong. Out on the street, the siren faded, then stopped. And in the deep, silent dark, all I could hear was my own heart racing and Emily's question echoing. "When did you and Daniel start seeing each other?" When? From the day I was weak. From the day I was selfish. From the day I thought I could bury the past. But the past never stays buried. And now it had a baby's face growing inside me every single day. I closed my eyes and the past washed over me. The night everything started going wrong, the night I sat in Emily's kitchen crying, and Daniel put his hand on my shoulder just a little too long. 5 years ago, I was the new daughter-in-law. My husband's family was still close back then. His parents lived in a small house in the city, and Emily and Daniel lived outside Houston, in a white 2-story house with a wooden fence out front. I remember meeting Emily for the first time. She was 28 with shiny blonde hair and blue eyes as clear as a swimming pool on a summer day. The second she saw me, she ran over and grabbed my arm. "Sit next to me." Back then, Daniel sat beside her, his arm around her chair, smiling at Emily. They made a gorgeous couple. Michael used to drive me to his sister's house all the time. Emily's place always smelled like something good cooking. She knew I loved Texas-style grilled chicken, pumpkin pie in the fall, sweet tea with lemon on summer afternoons. I never even had to ask. She just made it. "She's so good to us," Michael would say, hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. "Yeah," I'd answer, looking out the window. By then, I'd gotten used to people giving me things. Emily gave gifts, gave money, gave amazing dinners. The first time I borrowed $10,000, she wrote a check right at the dinner table, no paperwork. Then $20,000. Then $50,000. Every time she'd just ask, "How much do you need?" and pull out her checkbook. I stopped feeling grateful. It just felt normal. Emily was rich, right? Helping out her sister-in-law a little was no big deal. Then that day came. Debt collectors wouldn't stop calling. One guy even showed up at our door, pounding like crazy. Me and Michael hid in the bedroom, lights off, barely breathing. My phone rang. Emily. "Hey, I heard what's happening. Come stay with us. You'll be safe here." I cried. For the first time in months, I really cried. Not because I was touched, because I was relieved. Another place to hide. Those first weeks at Emily's, I told myself I'd be good. I helped Emily cook, cleaned, watered plants. Emily still went to work, still smiled, still asked, "How are you today?" But then, months 3 and 4 rolled by. Michael was out looking for work from morning till night. I stayed home alone all day, 4 walls. 4 walls that weren't mine. And Daniel, my brother-in-law, started coming home earlier. At first, it was just small talk. "How's your day? Need me to grab anything?" But then his looks got longer. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't back away. I told myself, I'm imagining things. Daniel's a good guy. He's Emily's husband. I was lying to myself. That night, I'll never forget it. Michael was working out of town for 3 days. Emily was working late at the office. I sat alone in the kitchen around 11 at night, holding a glass of wine, staring out at the dark window. My phone rang. Debt collector. The voice on the other end was cold. "Pay up or you know what happens." I hung up, dropped my head on the table, and sobbed. Cried like a baby. Couldn't stop. Then I heard footsteps. Looked up. Daniel was standing in the kitchen doorway. "Sarah," he walked closer. "You okay?" I just shook my head, couldn't speak. Daniel pulled out a chair and sat next to me. Then he put his hand on my shoulder. "It's going to be okay," he said. His hand on my shoulder. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. I knew it was longer than a normal pat. I knew I should stand up, say thanks, and go to my room. But I didn't. I sat there, feeling the warmth of his hand, feeling comfort from a man who wasn't my husband. I was so tired, so lonely. I closed my eyes and leaned my head against him. Daniel stroked my hair, kissed my forehead, then his lips. "Stop," I pushed back, whispering. "Emily." "Emily's asleep," he said, voice rough. What happened next was just a few minutes, a few crazy, clumsy, guilty minutes. Then I ran to my room, lay in bed, staring at the ceiling with my eyes wide open. My heart was pounding. I heard Daniel's footsteps in the hall, then his and Emily's bedroom door close. I didn't sleep, lay there till morning, telling myself, just this once, never again. Next morning, I came downstairs. Emily was making coffee. She turned, looked at me. Just a look, nothing more. But I knew instantly. Emily knew. Not because she said anything, but because of how quiet she was. How she looked at me, then looked away. How she set the coffee cup down softer than usual. I sat down, hands shaking. Emily handed me coffee. "Thanks," I said, eyes on the table. "Sure," Emily answered, voice flat. The days after, Emily still talked normally, still cooked, still asked how I was. But this fragile distance had slipped between us. I noticed Emily watching Daniel longer, the way someone does when they're looking for something. Then one time, I saw Emily holding Daniel's tablet. A message was on screen. Daniel hadn't deleted it. He'd texted me, "I miss you." I hadn't replied yet. Emily read it. Her face went pale. Then she set the tablet down, said nothing, and walked into the bedroom. I stood frozen in the hall. Emily knew, but Emily stayed quiet. The months after, Emily was silent through everything. Silent during the lawsuit. Silent when I had to go to court over the $200,000 debt. Silent when the judge ruled in her favor. I had 5 years to pay her back. That day, walking out of the Harris County Courthouse, Houston's sun was blazing. I stood on the steps on one side, Emily on the other. Daniel came out last. He walked to Emily and handed her a piece of paper. Divorce papers. "I'm sorry," Daniel said, voice small, eyes on the ground. "I can't keep going." Emily looked at the paper. The sun hit her face so bright I had to squint. Then Emily looked up, straight at me. That look. I'll never forget that look. Not angry, not screaming. It was like she was saying, "You took my $200,000, but I took your husband." I turned away, hurried down the steps, couldn't look back. I knew I was wrong. I knew I was why Emily's marriage fell apart. But I wasn't brave enough to own it. I told myself, it's Daniel's fault. He's the man. He should have controlled himself. But deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't control myself either. I opened my eyes. White bedroom ceiling. Michael beside me, still asleep, arm around my waist. Outside the window, full daylight. 3 years. 3 years since that courthouse day. 3 years Emily had lived alone, depressed, wasting away. 3 years I'd tried to forget. Tried to move on. Tried to pay back the debt. Tried to be a good wife. And now this pregnancy. I looked down at my belly. Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft stripes across me. My stomach was just a little rounded, but I knew it was there, growing every day. I put my hand on my stomach. My body's warmth spread into my palm. The baby stirred slightly, like it knew I was thinking about it. Proof of my sin undeniable. Tears fell, soaking my pillow. This time I couldn't hold back the sobs. Michael stirred next to me, squeezed my waist gently, then fell back asleep. His warm breath on the back of my neck, and I cried harder, because I knew I was about to hurt this man again. And this time, not with money, with something worse, the truth. The phone on my nightstand stayed dark. Emily had hung up hours ago. No texts, no callback. Just silence. But I knew that silence was scarier than any accusation. After the divorce, Daniel came looking for me. He stood outside our little rental, saying, "I've loved you for so long." I almost passed out, not from happiness, but from fear. Scared Michael would come home, scared Emily would find out, scared of myself. 3 years after the court case, me and Michael's life was this cramped rental room on the outskirts of Houston. One tiny bedroom, shared kitchen with other units, fridge always half empty. But we were paying off the debt. Every month, Michael sent money to Emily's account, quiet and steady like he did everything. I thought I'd escaped. Thought Daniel had disappeared from my life after that courthouse day. But Daniel didn't disappear. At first, just texts, unknown number. I opened it. "I miss you." I deleted it, no reply. Then another. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have married Emily. I need you." Deleted again. Then calls. I didn't answer. He'd call from different numbers. Still didn't answer. Once I answered thinking it was Michael. Daniel's voice. "Sarah, please just listen." My hands shook. I whispered, "You're crazy. I'm married. I'm your ex-sister-in-law." "You're the one I love." His voice desperate. Since that night in the kitchen, I knew. I hung up, heart pounding. Looked around our little room, our wedding photos on the wall, Michael's shirt hanging by the bed. Then I thought of Emily. My sister-in-law, living through who knows what after the divorce. My mother-in-law said Emily was severely depressed, sometimes hospitalized. I was the reason. I knew it. I told myself never again, never see Daniel again. But then one day I ran into him at the grocery store. I was shopping for dinner. Michael was working late. I pushed my cart through the aisles, checking my list. Vegetables, milk, bread. When I looked up, Daniel was at the end of the aisle. I froze. My hand dropped. My list fluttered to the floor. Daniel walked closer. He looked thinner, dark circles, stubble, wearing an old wrinkled shirt. "Sarah," he said, voice rough. I stepped back. My cart jammed into a shelf with a clatter. "I didn't follow you," Daniel said quickly. I just wanted to see you once." I looked around. The store was empty, just a few people at the checkout far away. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Go home." "Stop making this hard. Without you, I'm the one hurting." Daniel's eyes were red. "I miss you. I can't live without you. I'm divorced now. I'm free, Sarah." I shook my head, gripping my cart. "I'm married, and I don't love you." "You're lying." Daniel stepped closer. "That night, you wanted it too. You needed me too." I was silent, because I knew, partly, he was right. That night, I was weak. I needed someone to hold me, comfort me, tell me everything would be okay. And Michael was always stressed about money, about the debt, about everything. He'd forgotten those little things. "Come talk in the parking lot?" Daniel asked. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave you alone." I knew I shouldn't go, but my feet followed him outside. The parking lot was empty. Late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the hot asphalt. We stood by Daniel's old truck, the pickup I remembered from when I lived at his house. Daniel talked about life after divorce, about the empty house, the sleepless nights, realizing he'd loved me since that kitchen night. He mentioned Emily. His voice softened, but said he couldn't pretend anymore. "I know you feel guilty about Emily," Daniel said. "I do too, but you don't choose who you love, right?" I stood there, listening. Inside me, two feelings fought. One was guilt, fear, the image of Michael working so hard to pay off debt. The other was that feeling of being wanted and being loved, being someone's whole world. Daniel took my hand. I startled, looking down at his hand, warm, familiar from that night. I looked up at his eyes, red, desperate. And I was weak. We kissed in his truck. Then he drove. Then we ended up at a motel nearby. Next morning, I woke in that strange room, watching Daniel sleep beside me. His face looked innocent, harmless as a child. I looked at him, then at my clothes on the chair, then at the stained ceiling. Horror. I got dressed, slipped out quietly. On the way back to our rental, I told myself, last time, this is the last time. I was lying to myself again. 2 months later, I started feeling tired, nauseous every morning. I thought it was stress, pressure from the debt. Emily called a few times, short calls, polite check-ins. I answered vaguely. I couldn't face her voice. Then one day, passing the grocery store, I saw pregnancy tests at the pharmacy counter. I stood there 10 minutes, staring at that little box. Finally, I bought one, hid it in my bag, went home when Michael was at work. I went in the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the toilet, hands shaking as I followed the instructions. 3 minutes. I watched the clock. Seconds ticked by so slow. My heart pounded so loud I heard it in my ears. When I looked at the test, 2 lines showed clear as day. I sat there, frozen, staring at those 2 red lines, 2 lines like 2 knives stabbing my heart. I suddenly remembered the doctor a year ago when Michael got checked for fertility issues. Michael, results show it'll be very hard for you to have kids naturally. Extremely low chance. You might want to consider IVF if you want children. Michael was so sad that day, he kept apologizing. I comforted him, said it's okay, we have options. But inside, I was sad too. I wanted a baby. I wanted to see a little face that looked like Michael and me. And now I was pregnant. Naturally. I counted back 8 weeks, right when I met Daniel at the store, right that motel night. I buried my face in my hands, curled up on the bathroom floor. Tears leaked through my fingers. Honey! I jumped, Michael's voice outside. I'm back from the store. You want anything to eat? I quickly threw the test in the trash, covered it with crumpled paper, stood up, looked in the mirror. Pale face, red eyes, splashed cold water, dried off, tried to breathe steady. Then I opened the door. Michael stood there, grocery bags in hand, smiling like always. Sweat on his forehead, shirt damp on his back. I got salmon. Your favorite. He held up the bag like a trophy. Oh, thanks. I nodded, forcing a smile. My eyes were dry, but inside I was screaming. Michael went to the kitchen, putting stuff away, chattering. Got a $200 bonus today. Put it toward the debt. Emily will be happy. Emily. I leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching Michael unpack groceries. He didn't know. He was still thinking of his sister. And me. I was carrying his sister's ex-husband's baby. That night I lay next to Michael. He rolled over like always and put his hand on my stomach. The warmth of his hand seeped through my pajamas, into my skin, down to where the baby was. I can't wait, Michael whispered, to have a kid someday. I'm going to be the best dad ever. I didn't answer. I closed my eye, tears flowing inward, soaking my pillow. My throat tightened. I could barely breathe. Michael fell asleep, hands still on my belly. Soft snores, occasionally a little smile in his sleep. I looked at him in the dark, his kind, gentle face, no suspicion at all. And I knew I couldn't hide this forever. But I didn't know if I had the courage to tell him. A week later, I sat in the clinic. Michael beside me, holding my hand, eyes shining with hope. The doctor checked the results, then smiled at us. Congratulations, you're pregnant. Michael burst into tears. He grabbed me, crying like a baby, sobbing, shaking. I'm going to be a dad, you hear that? I'm going to be a dad. I stood frozen, my hands gripped the exam table, knuckles white. I watched Michael cry, watched the doctor smile, watched the ultrasound photo on the table with that tiny shape inside. And I knew I'd just walked into a hell of my own making. That hell held my husband's laughter, his happy tears, his warm arms around me, the baby growing inside me. And the truth lying there, silent, waiting to explode. I met Daniel at a coffee shop by the highway. I put my hand on my stomach and said, I'm pregnant. It's yours. Daniel looked at me, silent for 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Then he said, I'm still in love with Emily. I picked a coffee shop right by the highway where cars zoomed past day and night. It was so loud, nobody would hear what we said. I took a table in the far corner, pulled my cap down low, wore sunglasses even though it wasn't sunny. I looked like I was in some spy movie, but I couldn't take chances. Michael thought I was at a regular pregnancy checkup. Daniel showed up 20 minutes late. I watched him walk in, faded jeans, old t-shirt, messy hair. He looked around, spotted me in the corner, and walked over. His eyes went straight to my stomach, even though I was wearing a baggy jacket. He dropped into the chair across from me, didn't order anything, just looked at me. Say that again, he said, his voice dry. I put my hand on my stomach. I did that all the time now. Those days I kept touching it, like I was hiding it, protecting it, or wishing it away. I didn't even know anymore. I'm pregnant, it's yours, 8 weeks. Daniel went quiet. He stared out the window at the cars whizzing by on the highway. Speed, dust, noise, all mixed together. His hand was wrapped around the coffee I'd ordered for him, but he wasn't drinking. Squeezing so tight I was afraid the cup would shatter. I started, not knowing what to say. I'm still in love with Emily. He cut me off, still looking at the highway. I thought I'd heard wrong. I waited for him to repeat it, but he just stayed quiet. The air in the coffee shop felt thick and heavy, even with all the traffic noise outside. What? I whispered. Daniel finally turned to look at me, really look at me, for the first time since he'd sat down. His eyes were red, but not the kind of red from almost crying. It was the kind of red from someone who'd cried plenty of nights already. That night was a mistake, Sarah. His voice was flat, like he was reciting something he'd memorized. I thought I loved you. I thought you were who I needed, but I was wrong. I sat frozen. My hands gripped the edge of the table. It felt like someone had just dumped ice water on my face. I was just lonely, Daniel went on. After the divorce, I was so empty. I needed someone to fill the hole. And you were there. You understood me. You were lonely too. We came together because we were both weak. I let out a bitter laugh. Not a happy laugh, not a sad one, just bitter. It made my lips feel dry, made my face twist. So, for 3 years, you chased me, said you loved me, called, texted, waited for me outside grocery stores. What was all that for? Daniel dropped his head. He stared at the table, at his hands, at the cold coffee. He wouldn't look at me. I don't know, he said, his voice getting smaller. I was wrong, I'm sorry, but you were wrong too, Sarah. You have a husband. You're Emily's sister-in-law. We were both wrong. I stayed quiet. He was right. I was wrong. I knew I was wrong from the beginning. I knew it from that night in the kitchen, from the secret texts, from that time at the motel. But hearing him say it, hearing him admit I was just a mistake, hurt more than I thought it would. So what now, I asked, my hand rubbing my stomach without thinking. What am I supposed to do with this baby? Daniel looked me straight in the eyes for the first time. In his eyes, I saw fear. Not fear for me, not fear for the baby, fear for Emily. Don't tell Emily. The words came out fast, like he'd had this answer ready for a long time. She's depressed. She's trying to get through each day. If she finds out about this, she won't be able to handle it. I frowned. What do you mean? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the highway again, then spoke in a whisper. She's thought about ending it. I jolted. Ending it. I knew what that meant. She was in the hospital twice after the divorce, Daniel said. Doctor said severe depression, suicidal thoughts. Her mom had to stay with her for months. I felt cold all over. Emily, my kind, smiling sister-in-law who used to cook for me, had thought about dying? And you think I'm the reason? My voice shook. We're the reason, Daniel answered. Me and you, especially you, Sarah. You were her sister-in-law. She trusted you. She let you stay in her house, lent you money, cooked for you, bought you gifts, and you... He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood. I dropped my face toward the table. Tears started falling, soaking my sunglasses. I took them off, wiped my eyes with my sleeve, couldn't stop. I'm just sorry, Sonia, Daniel said, his voice softer now. I'm sorry for everything, but I can't do anything for you and this baby. I can't. Why? I looked up at him, eyes red. Because I still love Emily. This time his voice was stronger, and I realized that after everything, you were just a hole I was trying to fill. Emily is who I really need, and I lost her because of my own stupidity. I stared at him. Daniel, the guy who'd chased me for 3 years, said he loved me, made me believe I was special to him, was now sitting across from me, telling me I was just a mistake. Bitter. So bitter, I wanted to throw up everything inside me. So what am I supposed to do? I asked again, my voice begging now. Alone? With a baby? With Michael? With Emily? Daniel stood up. He looked at me one last time, eyes red but not sorry. I don't know, but don't tell Emily, please. He walked away, left me sitting there, alone in that highway coffee shop, holding my stomach, tears streaming down my face. I drove home in a daze. My hands shook on the wheel. Cars zoomed past, headlights blurring in my eyes. I had to pull over a few times to wipe my tears, to breathe, to try to focus. I realized I was just a mistake in Daniel's life, a temporary hole filler. And Emily, even divorced, even 3 years apart, was still the one he loved. I pulled into our rental complex. Dusk was settling in. Warm light glowed from our little window. I looked inside and saw Michael standing in the kitchen. He was holding a spoon, stirring something on the stove. Steam rose up. I sat in the car, watching him for a long time. He turned to grab something, spotted my car, and smiled wide, waving. I opened the door and walked in. Michael ran over to meet me, still holding that spoon. "You're back," he grinned huge. "I made you salmon porridge. The doctor said pregnant women should eat salmon. It's really good for you." I looked at him, sweat on his forehead, shirt damp on his back, eyes bright, happy. He didn't know anything. He just thought I'd been to a checkup and was coming home to eat the porridge he made. I walked in and sat at the table. Michael brought over a steaming bowl, smelling like salmon and green onions. He set it in front of me, pulled up a chair across from me, and watched me eat. "Eat up, honey. It's really good." Good. I used Light's mom's recipe. I picked up my spoon. The warm bowl heated my hands. I looked at it, looked at Michael, looked at my stomach. I wanted to say, "Michael, I'm sorry." I wanted to say, "Michael, this baby isn't yours." I wanted to say, "Michael, I'm the worst wife in the world." But I couldn't. I just lowered my head and ate. Spoonful after spoonful went down my throat, but I couldn't taste anything. Michael sat watching me, smiling happily. Every now and then he'd ask, "Is it good? Too salty?" I nodded, swallowed. Tears fell into my porridge, but Michael didn't see. Or maybe he thought they were happy tears. That night I lay in the dark. Michael lay beside me, his hand on my stomach like always. He slept soundly, occasionally smiling in his dreams. I stared at the ceiling. My hand rested on my stomach, on top of his. In the deep silence, I wondered, when this baby grows up, whose face will it have? Daniel's, Emily's, or the face of betrayal itself? Will it have my green eyes or Emily's blue? Will it have light brown hair or dull blonde? Will it smile like Michael, kind and gentle, or like Daniel, full of calculation? I didn't know. I only knew that every day it grew inside me, every day the truth grew with it. And someday that truth would explode. Like now, Emily already knew. Like now, I lay here, caught between my husband and the child of a man who didn't love me. Caught between two lines and two lives. Michael was so happy. He bought parenting books, bought baby clothes, pressed his ear to my stomach every night to hear the heartbeat. But I kept avoiding him whenever he wanted to come to doctor's appointments together. And Michael started to notice. I'd never seen Michael this happy. 36 years old, married 10 years, finally about to be a dad. He came home from work earlier than usual, carrying all kinds of stuff. Salmon, avocados, unsweetened milk. He'd mess around in the kitchen, cooking dishes I used to love when we first started dating. I'd sit on the sofa watching him through the kitchen doorway, watching how carefully he seasoned things, occasionally looking up to smile at me. And I hated myself. Every night he'd tell me to lie down. He bought a fetal Doppler online. At first, he couldn't figure it out. Kept moving it around, searching for the right spot. When he finally heard the heartbeat for the first time, his face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "Listen, honey, it goes thump, thump." He pressed his ear to my stomach, eyes shining, holding my hand tight. "So fast. Must be a girl. Girls have faster heartbeats." I forced a smile. "How do you know?" "I read it on dad forums." Michael looked up at me, his eyes full of love. "Sarah, thank you. Thank you for everything." I turned away. I couldn't take it. Another second looking at him, and I'd start crying. Then the questions started. "When are we going to a checkup together? I can take time off work." "Do you have an appointment next week? Let me come with you." "Hey, let's go for an ultrasound tomorrow. See if we can see the baby's face?" I made excuses every time. "I'm busy that day. You go to work, I can go alone. It's just a regular checkup, no need. Let's save money. I can check my blood pressure at home." Michael didn't say anything, but he looked at me longer. One time, I came back from the clinic, opened the door, and found him sitting in the living room. Only 3 in the afternoon. He should have been at work. "Why are you home early?" My hand gripped the doorknob tight. "Got off early. Were you at the doctor's?" He stood up and walked toward me. "Let me see the results." I froze. They're in the car. Let me get them." I turned around, heart pounding. There was nothing in the car. I pretended to open the trunk, open doors, rummage around. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "Let me help you look." Michael came out and opened every compartment in the car. Glove box, back seat, trunk, nothing. "Weird," he said, his voice still calm. "Maybe you left them at the clinic?" "Yeah, probably." I couldn't look at him. That night, I woke up at 2 in the morning. Michael wasn't beside me. I went to the living room and found him sitting in the dark. Only the light from his phone lighting up his face. He didn't know I was standing behind him. He scrolled slowly through his phone, then stopped. The screen showed old text messages. I saw Daniel's name. My heart stopped. Michael scrolled up, scrolled down, read every single message. Text from 3 years ago, when we were still staying at Emily's house. When Daniel was still married to his sister. I miss you. Want to meet tonight? I miss you too. Wait till Emily's asleep. Michael put the phone down. He buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook in the darkness. I wanted to run to him. Wanted to fall on my knees. Wanted to say I was sorry. But my feet wouldn't move. I just stood there, watching him, hating myself more than anything in the world. Next morning, Michael made coffee like always. He set a cup in front of me, then sat down at the table. His face showed nothing, but his eyes were red. You could tell he hadn't slept. Sarah, his voice was strangely calm. I'm going to ask you something. Just tell me the truth, okay? My hand holding the coffee cup trembled slightly. What is it? Michael looked straight into my eyes. That look, I'd never seen it on him before. It felt both unfamiliar and familiar, like he was looking at someone else, not me. This baby, Michael spoke slowly, each word deliberate. Is it mine? Crash. The coffee cup fell from my hand, shattered on the floor. Brown liquid splashed up my legs, burning hot, but I didn't feel anything. I just stood there, staring at Michael. He still sat calmly, both hands on the table, watching me, waiting. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. Just like the Doppler he pressed to my stomach every night. Just like the heartbeat of the baby inside me. I opened my mouth. No sound came out. My eyes blurred. Michael faded behind my tears. I wanted so badly to speak, to confess everything, to say I was sorry, that I was terrible, that this baby was Daniel's, that I'd betrayed him, betrayed Emily, betrayed everyone. But I just stood there, among the broken pieces, hand on my stomach, staring at Michael. And Michael just sat there, waiting. I wished the earth would stop spinning right then. I wished I could disappear. I wished I'd never been born. But I still stood there, in that sunny kitchen, in the lingering smell of coffee, among the shards at my feet. And Michael still looked at me, waiting. I got on my knees and picked up every piece of the broken cup. A piece cut my finger and blood ran down, but I didn't even feel it. Then I heard my voice, like it was coming from somewhere far away. It's not yours. Michael stood up, quiet, and walked toward the door. I picked up the pieces of ceramic from the floor. Every piece was sharp as a knife. One sliced into my index finger. Bright red blood dripped onto the tile. I still didn't stop. I kept picking them up. Like, if I could just gather all the broken pieces, everything would go back to how it was before. But Michael had already stood up. He walked to the door. He didn't look at me. Michael, I called out, my voice scratchy. He stopped. His back was still to me. I saw his shoulders shake a little, just barely, then he opened the door. The door closed. The lock made a soft click, soft, but it hit me like thunder. I sank down to the floor. Blood from my hand soaked into the broken pieces. Bright red. Then my tears fell too, mixing with the blood. I covered my face and cried, couldn't hold it back. My sobs echoed in the empty kitchen. I didn't know where Michael went, but I had a bad feeling. I knew him. He wouldn't go drinking, wouldn't wander around with no purpose. Michael had one place he went when he was hurting, one person he turned to. Emily. I sat on the floor for who knows how long. The sun had set outside a while ago. The house got dark, but I didn't bother turning on lights. Then my phone rang and I jumped. Unknown number. A stranger's voice. Are you Sarah, Michael's wife? I'm a doctor at Houston Methodist Hospital. Your husband's sister, Emily, was just brought into emergency. I don't remember how I drove to the hospital. Only that my hands shook so bad I almost hit a railing on a bridge. Only that my heart pounded so hard it felt like it would jump out of my chest. Only that I kept saying as I drove, don't die, Emily. Please don't die. I'm sorry. Don't die. It's okay. I pushed through the emergency room doors and saw Emily lying on a bed. Her face was white as paper, eyes closed, an IV in her arm, clear fluid dripping into her. Michael sat beside her. He was looking at Emily, not at me. A young doctor turned to me. Are you family? Patient went into severe shock. Blood pressure dropped very low. We've given fluids. She's stable for now. She needs absolute rest. What happened? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. The doctor looked at me, then at Michael. He dodged the question. Probably from severe emotional shock. Family should stay and support her. I stepped closer to the bed. Michael still wouldn't look at me. He held Emily's hand, his big hand, wrapped around her thin, pale one. Then Emily opened her eyes. She stared at the white ceiling, blinking a few times. Slowly, she turned, looked at Michael, then looked at me. That look, I'd never seen eyes like that. Emily wasn't crying. Her eyes were dry, but that look was scarier than tears. It was hurt pushed to the very end. Pain that had gone past the point of crying. Like someone had scooped out all her insides and stuffed them with cotton. "Get out," Emily said. Her voice was scratchy, like she'd been screaming for hours. But she hadn't screamed. She'd just passed out. I stood there. My feet wouldn't move. "I said get out." Emily's scream shattered. Shattered into a million pieces like my coffee cup that morning. She sat up straight, face red, yanking the IV out of her arm. Blood sprayed from the hole, but she didn't care. She just stared at me, pointing at the door. Get out, don't stand there." Nurses ran in. One held Emily, another pressed gauze on the bleeding spot. Emily struggled, trying to push their hands away, her eyes still locked on me. Michael stood up. He grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the room. I let him pull me, walking step by step without feeling the floor. Before the door closed, I saw Emily collapse onto a nurse's shoulder, her body shaking with sobs. Out in the hallway, I leaned against the wall. My hand held my stomach. My belly ached in waves. I didn't know if it was from pain or fear. Michael stood a few feet away. He leaned against the wall, too, staring at the ceiling, saying nothing. I looked down at my hand. The cut from this morning had dried, but blood was still crusted around my finger, my blood, and Emily's blood on the emergency room floor. And I realized I didn't just destroy Emily's marriage, didn't just steal her husband. Now I was carrying that man's baby inside me, and this could actually kill Emily. I slid down the wall, sitting on the cold hospital floor. People walked past. They looked at me. A woman sitting on the floor, blood on her hands, face wet with tears, holding her pregnant belly. I didn't even feel embarrassed anymore. Michael still didn't look at me. He stood there, staring at the white ceiling. I wondered what he was thinking. Did he hate me? Did he feel sorry for his sister? Did he wish he'd never married me? Then the door opened. A nurse stepped out and looked at us. "Patient is stable now, but needs rest. She wants to see him." The nurse nodded at Michael. "Just him." Michael nodded. He walked in without looking back. The door closed. I sat on the floor, both hands on my belly, listening to my heartbeat. Thump, 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 like the baby inside me. Daniel's baby. The baby growing from a mistake. A mistake that could kill the best woman I'd ever known. The hospital hallway emptied out. The lights overhead flickered weakly. I sat there, I don't know how long. Waiting for a door to open. Waiting for a verdict. Waiting to see how my life would end. Because I knew no matter what happened, I deserved it all. 2 weeks later, I got a summons. Not about the debt this time. Emily was suing for custody of the baby in my belly. Emily's lawyer said, "My client wants to strip Sarah of her maternal rights because she doesn't deserve them." My hands shook, holding that paper. Black letters on white danced in front of my eyes. I read it 3 times and still couldn't believe it. Emily, my sister-in-law, who I owed $200,000, who lost her husband because of me, was now suing for custody of me and Daniel's baby. I sat down on the chair, holding my stomach. My belly was much bigger now, 5 months along. The baby inside kicked softly, like reminding me it was here, alive, waiting to be born. And someone wanted to take it from me. Court day. Houston. Sun was blazing. I got out of the car, feeling every ray burn my skin. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd had gathered. Relatives, friends, people who knew both sisters. They whispered. They looked at me with disgust. I kept my head down and walked through, hands still on my belly. Inside the courtroom, the air was heavy as lead. I sat on the left side alone. On the right, Emily sat between Michael and Daniel. Michael, my husband, wouldn't look at me. He sat there beside his sister like a wall protecting her. Daniel kept his head down, hands folded together, not daring to look at anyone. My in-laws sat in the back row. 2 poor old people, faces lined with grief. My mother-in-law was crying. My father-in-law held her shoulder, his eyes red too. I looked around for one friendly face. No one, just me against this whole family. Emily's lawyer stood up. A woman around 40, dressed sharp, voice firm. "Your Honor, today we're presenting a case with no precedent in Texas. My client, Emily Peterson, requests custody of the baby in her sister-in-law, Sarah's womb. Sarah, the wife of Emily's brother. The room went dead silent. I could hear my heartbeat. We will prove that Sarah is unfit to be a mother. She has a history of debt. $200,000 borrowed from her sister-in-law that she never repaid. She has a history of adultery with her sister-in-law's own husband. She deceived her own husband, hid the baby's true paternity from him. With this evidence, we argue that Sarah cannot provide a healthy environment for this child. My lawyer, an older man assigned through legal aid, stood up with a weak objection. But everyone could see he didn't stand a chance. Your Honor, Emily's lawyer continued, DNA results are in. We request permission to present them. I gripped the edge of my seat, my nails dug into my palms. A forensic analyst stepped up, holding a sealed envelope. He opened it and read in a flat voice, "Comparison of DNA samples from Mr. Daniel Peterson and amniotic fluid from Ms. Sarah Peterson's fetus shows that Mr. Daniel Peterson is the biological father with 99.98% probability." Whispers broke out through the room. I closed my eyes. Even though I already knew, hearing it out loud in open court felt like a knife straight through my heart. Daniel dropped his head even lower. The back of his neck was red. Emily sat still, face expressionless. Michael still wouldn't look at me. With these results, Emily's lawyer said, we asked the court to consider custody. Mr. Daniel Peterson has parental rights, but he has declined them. He doesn't want the child, so who is fit to raise this baby? She paused, looking around the room. An adulterous, indebted, deceitful mother? Or the ex-wife? The woman who loved and cared for Mr. Daniel for 5 years? Who will love this child as her own? Emily sat still. I looked at her. Thin face, pale but still beautifully strong. She didn't look smug or victorious. She just stared forward, eyes empty. Court recessed for 15 minutes. I went to a small waiting room, sat down rubbing my belly. The baby kicked hard like it could feel the tension too. Baby, and I whispered, I'm sorry I brought you into this. The door opened. I looked up. Emily walked in. She closed the door behind her, leaned against it, looking at me. My heart raced. Why was she here? To see my face one last time before taking my baby. You here to see my face one last time before you take my baby? I asked, my voice shaking. Emily didn't answer. She walked over and sat in the chair across from me. Her eyes didn't have that fury from the hospital anymore, and instead there was just endless exhaustion, tired down to the bone. Tired down to the... I'm dropping the case. My eyes went wide. I couldn't believe it. What? I'm dropping the lawsuit, Emily said slowly, each word deliberate. I don't want this baby growing up in a courtroom. It's innocent. It didn't choose its parents. I sat there, mouth hanging open. No way. After everything I did, Emily was dropping it? But why? My voice cracked. Emily looked straight into my eyes. Those blue eyes that used to shine with joy, now they were bloodshot and cloudy. She'd cried a lot. Because I know what it's like to not have a mother. Emily's voice broke. I know what it's like to be abandoned. I know what it's like to grow up with a hole in your heart that nothing can fill. I don't want that baby to go through that. Even if it's Daniel's, even if it's proof of betrayal, it's still a person. Tears poured down my face. I couldn't stop them. You forgive me? I sobbed. Emily shook her head, a slow, definite shake. No, I don't forgive you. I'll never forgive you. You took my husband. You destroyed my family. You made your sister cry for 3 years straight. She stopped and took a deep breath. I just don't want this baby to carry your guilt. That's the difference between you and me. You only think about yourself. I'm thinking about the baby. I sobbed uncontrollably. Emily's words hurt more than any punishment, because she was right, completely right. Emily stood up. She walked to the door, hand on the handle. Then she turned back. Sarah, you owe me $200,000. Emily's voice was strangely calm. But that's nothing compared to what you owe me now, a debt of conscience. And I don't know if you can ever pay it back. The door opened. Emily stepped through without looking back. The door closed. A soft click echoed in the small room. I sat there, holding my belly, crying so hard. Tears ran down my cheeks, dripped onto my pregnant stomach, soaked into my shirt. The baby kicked and kicked like it was crying with me. I knew Emily was right. Some debts can't be paid with money. Some mistakes can't be fixed. Some wounds never heal. And I just realized I'd owe Emily for the rest of my life. Outside, the courtroom was still waiting. But I wasn't scared anymore. Emily had dropped the case. Emily had given me a chance. Not because I deserved it, but because she was 1,000 times better than me. I stood up, wiped my tears. I walked out the door, heading back to the courtroom. I didn't know what waited ahead. I didn't know if Michael would ever forgive me. I didn't know what would happen to Daniel. I didn't know where my life would go. But I knew one thing. I owed Emily an apology I could never fully give. And I'd spend my whole life trying to pay that debt, even knowing I never could. My belly cramped. The baby kicked hard. I put my hand on my stomach and whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry for everything, but I promise I'll try to be a good person for you and for Aunt Emily." The court announced, DNA results have confirmed paternity. All other matters will be decided later. But for me, everything was already decided in the cruelest way possible. Michael filed for divorce, Daniel disappeared, and me, along with my pregnant belly, had to face the consequences. I stood at the door of our little rental, watching Michael pack his stuff. He opened the closet, took out each shirt one by one, folded them neatly into a suitcase, not rushing, not angry, like he was doing some boring chore, like washing dishes or sweeping the floor. I held my belly and leaned against the doorframe. My stomach was big now. 6 months. The baby inside moved around, like it knew something big was about to happen. "Where are you going?" I asked. My voice was tiny, like a mosquito buzzing. Michael didn't stop packing. "I'm going to my parents' house for a few days." "Are you coming back?" He stopped, stood up straight, turned around to look at me. His eyes, those warm brown eyes that had looked at me with love for 7 years, were just empty. So empty it was scary, like I didn't exist to him anymore, like I was just some stranger. "I don't know, Sarah," he said it slow. "I really don't know." He zipped his suitcase, picked it up, walked toward the door. I stepped aside to let him pass. My body was frozen, I couldn't move. His familiar cologne smell brushed past me one last time. The door closed. His footsteps faded down the hall. Car engine started, the sound of driving away, then silence. I sat down on the cold floor, still holding my belly. I looked around our tiny room. His spot on the couch where, he watched TV, his pillow, his slippers, everything was still there. But he wasn't. For the first time in my life, I felt so completely alone. The days after that passed like a long dream. I still went to work at the nail salon, still smiled and talked with customers, still asked, "What color do you want? Cuticles too?" But at night, I'd sit alone in my room holding my belly and crying. I cried because I missed Michael. Cried because I realized that I'd lost everything. Cried because I was scared of the future. Cried because the baby kept getting bigger and heavier, always reminding me of my mistake. A week later, Michael texted. Just a few short lines. "I filed for divorce, just signed the papers. I'm sorry, but I can't forgive you. I can't look at you without remembering what you did to my sister. Goodbye, Sarah." I read that message 100 times. Tears ran down my face, soaking my phone screen. I wanted to call him, say I was sorry, beg him to come back. But I knew it was useless. The look in his eyes the day he left said everything. I tried to reach Daniel. Called, no answer. Texted, no reply. I went to his old rental. The landlord said he moved out days ago, no forwarding address. He disappeared like he'd never existed. I was completely alone. Then my mom flew in from California. 6 in the morning, I heard a knock. Opened the door, and there she was with a small suitcase and that worried look only a mother has. I burst out crying like a little kid and hugged her tight. "Come on, sweetie." Mom patted my back. "Mom's here now. I'll stay with you until the baby comes. We'll figure it out." I leaned on her like a little girl. She cooked for me. Sour soup, braised fish, all my favorites from when I was little. She took me to doctor's appointments, sat with me in the waiting room, held my hand during the ultrasounds. She comforted me every night when I cried from missing Michael. One night, Mom asked, "Have you heard from Daniel?" I shook my head. "No, he disappeared after court." "What about Michael?" "He texted that he filed for divorce. He can't forgive me." Mom sighed. She didn't say anything, just stroked my hair. I rested my head on her shoulder, silently thanking God I still had my mom. Then one day I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. Someone had dropped it in. Inside was a small, light pink card. I opened it, my heart racing. Emily's handwriting. "Sarah, I'm not angry anymore. Being angry just made me more tired. I'm leaving now. I got a job in another city, starting my life over. I don't know if I can ever forget, but I'll try. I hope you and the baby are safe. I hope your child grows up with love, not hate. Emily." My hand shook. The card fell to the floor. I picked it up and read it again. And again. Emily, the woman I'd gossiped about behind her back, the woman I'd betrayed, the woman whose husband I'd stolen, was the kindest person to me now. No blame, no cursing, just wishing peace for me and her ex-husband's baby. I held the card to my chest and cried. Cried for what I'd done. Cried for Emily's goodness. Cried for myself, a selfish, weak person who'd lost everything. That night, Texas rain started falling. Rain in Texas is different from rain anywhere else. It's heavy pounding, each drop like a bean rattling on the tin roof. Tap, tap, tap. I lay in my tiny room, one hand on my belly. Just enough space for a bed and a dresser. Mom slept in the next room. She'd stayed up late knitting a sweater for her grandchild. The baby kicked softly, a tiny little kick, like saying, "Mom, I'm here." I whispered into the darkness. "I'm so sorry, baby. I did something terrible. I betrayed the people who love me, and now I have to live with that forever." The baby kicked again, like it was comforting me. "But I promise you." Tears ran down, soaking my pillow. "I will love you. I won't make you carry my guilt. I'll try to be a good person, for you, only for you." Outside, the rain kept falling, heavy drops pounding the tin roof. I held my belly and closed my eyes. I had a baby on the way. No husband, no money, no future. I'd lost Michael forever. I'd lost Daniel. If he was ever really mine, I'd lost Emily. Even though she was still alive, I knew I'd lost her. I'd lost my in-laws' trust. I'd lost my honor. I'd lost everything. But strangely, I wasn't scared anymore. Maybe because when you hit rock bottom, there's nothing left to lose. Maybe because this baby, the only thing I had left, reminded me I still had a reason to live. All I could do now was live for this baby. The rain kept falling. The night was still long, but morning would come, and I'd still be here, holding my belly, waiting for a new beginning, even knowing that every beginning carries scars that never fully heal. 2 a.m., the first pain hit. I woke up and felt my water break. I shook Mom awake. "Mom, I think the baby's coming." Mom panicked and called an ambulance, and I was taken to the hospital, alone in the dark of night. The pain cramping from my lower belly shot up my spine. I lay on the stretcher, gripping the rail, sweat pouring down like I'd taken a shower. Streetlights flashed past the window, streaks of yellow light hitting my face. Mom sat beside me holding my hand. She was shaking too. "Hold on, sweetie, we're almost at the hospital." I nodded but couldn't speak. Another pain hit, worse than before. I gasped, my nails digging into my palms. In my head, I saw Michael, saw Daniel, saw Emily. I wished they were here. Even just one of them. Even just to hold my hand. But no, just Mom and the pain. The delivery room was bright with lights. I lay on the table, legs apart, gripping the sheets. The pains came wave after wave, never stopping. I screamed, sweat soaking my hair, my clothes, the sheets underneath. A nurse wiped my face. The doctor said, "Push, Mama, you're almost there." I pushed, I screamed, tears mixed with sweat. Out in the hall, my mom sat alone on a waiting room bench. Later, she told me. She called Michael, no answer. Called Daniel, number disconnected. She just sat there, hands clasped, praying. I didn't know any of that then. All I knew was the pain and the baby's heartbeat on the monitor. Thump, 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 thump. Steady and strong. My baby's heartbeat. And I told myself I have to live. For this baby. One last pain, the worst one yet. I pushed with everything I had, feeling like my whole body was tearing apart. Then a cry filled the room. A baby's cry, high-pitched, tiny, but clear as day. 3:47 a.m., a baby girl. The nurse placed her on my chest. Wet, warm, trembling slightly. I looked at her, that tiny mouth crying. Those little eyes squeezed shut. That wet hair plastered to her head. I held her close, tears streaming. "My little girl," I whispered. And then I looked closer. That mouth, the upper lip curving up just slightly, the corners tilting just a bit, looked exactly like Emily. Her eyes were closed, but I knew when they opened, they'd be blue, just like Emily's. I froze. Daniel and Emily were married for 5 years. They lived together, loved each other, slept beside each other every night. Couples who stay together long enough start to look alike. Everyone says so. But looking at my daughter, I saw Emily. A painful ache rose from deep inside me. This baby, the result of betrayal, of secret nights, of lies, had the face of the woman I'd betrayed. I held her, crying and laughing at the same time, crying for what was lost. Laughing because she was here, whole and healthy. "My little girl," I whispered again. "You have your kind aunt's face. I wish she was here to see you." 2 days later, I was sitting up in bed, nursing the baby. She nursed so peacefully, little smacking sounds, eyes closed. I watched her, feeling strangely peaceful. Even though I'd lost everything, I had her. The door opened. I looked up. Emily walked in. My hands shook, almost dropping the baby. My heart raced. Why was Emily here? To blame me? To watch me suffer? Emily held up her hand like she was calming me down. Don't worry, I just came to visit. She closed the door and walked closer to the bed. I looked at her. Her blonde hair longer now, face still thin but healthier. She wore a light sweater and jeans, looking simple and quietly beautiful. Emily looked at the nursing baby. Her eyes got red, but she tried to smile. Can I hold her for a minute? I nodded, couldn't speak. Shaking, I handed my baby to Emily. Emily took her gently, like holding something precious. She cuddled her close, just staring at her for the longest time. Then tears fell. She looks so much like me, Emily said, her voice breaking. I know, I answered, and I was crying too. Emily sat down in the chair holding the baby, swaying gently. Then she started to sing. Go to sleep now, my little one. Mama's right here, won't go away. It was the lullaby my mother-in-law used to sing to Michael and Emily when they were kids. I recognized it right away. Back when I stayed at Emily's house, I'd heard her sing it while cleaning. Emily sang, her voice rough from crying, but still gentle, still warm. The baby in her arms stopped nursing, eyes closed, like she was listening. I watched them, Emily and my daughter, the woman I'd betrayed, and the child who had her face. Tears wouldn't stop. When she finished singing, Emily looked at me. Her eyes were red, but no anger remained, just deep sadness. I wish I'd never lent you that money, Emily said softly. Things would have been different. I'm sorry, and it was all I could say. Those two tiny words, not nearly enough for everything I'd done. I know, Emily answered, but sorry doesn't change anything. She stood up and laid the baby next to me. She gently stroked the baby's cheek so softly, like she was afraid of waking her. I just hope this little one grows up different from us, Emily said. Not selfish like you, and not foolish like me. I couldn't speak, my throat closed up. Emily walked to the door, her hand on the handle. Then she turned back. Name her Hope, Emily said. The door opened. Emily stepped through. The door closed. I stared at that door for a long time. Then I looked down at my daughter. She slept peacefully, a little smile on her lips. That mouth like Emily's, those closed eyes. But I knew when they opened, they'd be blue. Just like Emily's. Hope, I whispered. Your name is Hope. I held her close and closed my eyes. Tears still fell, but my heart felt lighter. I won't let you down, I told myself. I'll live up to this name. Outside, Texas sun was rising. First rays of light slipped through the hospital window, touching the bed, touching us, touching Hope's tiny face. Hope. Maybe after everything, there's still hope. 5 years later. I took Hope to the park. Hope is 5 now, running and playing, her blonde hair shining in the Texas sun. Then she stopped and pointed at a woman sitting on a bench. Mommy, who's that? I followed her finger and my heart stopped. Texas sun was still golden like always. Memorial Park was busy with families walking, kids running, couples whispering under the old oak trees. I sat on a bench, watching Hope chase pigeons. Her blonde hair shone in the sun, blowing in the wind. She laughed, that clear, high-pitched kid laugh. 5 years that felt like a whole lifetime. I finished paying off my debt to Emily a year ago. Every month I sent a little bit, small but steady. Nail salon pay isn't great, but I saved, I worked extra, I never spent anything on myself. When I sent that last payment, I cried. Not because I was happy, because I realized I owed Emily so much more than money. I still lived in the same little rental, still worked at Chihuahua's salon. Mom went back to California 3 years ago, but she calls every week to check on her grandkid. I never saw Michael again. Sometimes I'd hear through friends, he still lives in Houston, still single, still hasn't forgiven me. I get it. Some wounds take a lifetime to heal. Daniel? Vanished. Someone said they saw him in California. Someone said he went back to Vietnam. I never looked, didn't want to. I had hope, that was enough. Mommy, Hope ran back, pointing. Mommy, who's that? I followed where she pointed. A woman sat on a bench about 60 feet away, blonde hair, longer than before, wearing a light floral dress, holding a book. Next to her, a nice-looking man was smiling and talking. My heart stopped for a second. Emily. Hope didn't wait for my answer. She ran straight toward Emily, her little legs pumping across the grass. Excuse me, what book are you reading? Emily looked up. She looked at Hope, then looked toward me. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. Then Emily smiled. A real smile. Not forced, not bitter. The smile of someone who'd found peace. I stood up and walked over. My legs were shaky, but I made myself walk slow and natural. Emily had already crouched down to Hope's level. She looked at her so tenderly. Auntie's reading a book about flowers. Do you like flowers? Yes, Hope chirped. Mommy grows roses in front of our house, pink and red. I water them every day. Is that right? You're such a good girl. I was standing right in front of them now. Emily looked up at me. Our eyes met. No more hatred, no more tears. Just the quiet of time passing and wounds healed. Sarah, Emily stood up. Emily, my voice cracked a little. The man beside Emily stood up too, politely nodding. Emily introduced him. My boyfriend, we're getting married soon. He shook my hand warmly. I looked at Emily. She really did look brighter, healthier. Her eyes were clear, her skin glowed. Happiness showed in every line of her face. I'm so happy for you, I said, and I meant it. We sat down on the bench. Hope borrowed Emily's flower book, flipping through pages carefully. The man politely excused himself. I'll go get drinks for everyone. He understood. He left us to talk. Sunlight filtered through the oak leaves, spotting the ground with light. For a long moment, no one spoke. Are you okay? I finally asked. Emily nodded. I am, really. She looked out at the playing children. I did therapy for 2 years, learned to accept the past, learned to forgive. Forgive Daniel! And forgive myself. Emily looked at me. I realized holding on to anger just tired me out. Forgiveness isn't because the other person deserves it. It's because I deserve peace. I looked down at my hands. Calloused from nail chemicals, but I wasn't ashamed. These hands raised my child, paid my debts, worked hard for 5 years. I'm glad you found happiness, I said. You did too, Emily nodded toward Hope. She's beautiful. Growing up, she looks more and more like me. I laughed, tears coming. Yeah, I see it too. Every time I look at her, I think of you. Hope heard her name, looked up and grinned, then went back to her book. Emily watched her, eyes red too. Was it really hard? Emily asked. So many kinds of hard, I answered honestly. But I got through it. Because of Mom. Because of Chihua at the salon. Because of that card you sent. Emily was quiet. I still have it, I went on. On my hardest days, I'd read it. And I'd tell myself, I have to be worthy of Emily's kindness. Emily turned away, wiping her eyes. When she turned back, she smiled, a truly radiant smile. 30 minutes later, I said we should go. Hope ran over, tugging my hand. Mommy, I'm hungry. I stood up and looked at Emily. She stood up too. Then, suddenly, Emily hugged me. The first hug in 8 years. I froze for a second, then hugged her back. Emily held me tight, whispering in my ear, Take good care, Hope. She's lucky to have you as her mom. Even though you messed up, I can see you've changed. I cried into Emily's shoulder, cried from relief, cried from being forgiven, cried because I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Emily, I'm so sorry, I sobbed. I'm sorry for everything. I know, Emily rubbed my back. I know. We let go. Emily wiped my tears like I was her little sister. Then she crouched down to look at Hope. Be good, sweetie. Auntie will see you again sometime. Hope nodded and waved at Emily. Emily waved back, smiling bright in the sun. On the way home, Hope held my hand, taking her little steps. She'd hop-skip every now and then, singing little songs to herself. When we got close to our place, she looked up and asked, Mommy, who was that lady that made you cry? I looked at my daughter. This child with Emily's face. This child named Hope. I told her a story, a long story. I told her about a kind woman named Emily, about her brother Michael, about a man named Daniel, and about me, Sarah, the one who betrayed them all. I told her about mistakes, about debts, about nights crying alone, about forgiveness. Hope listened, eyes wide. She didn't understand everything, but she held my hand tighter. She was someone who was very good to Mommy, I said, and Mommy betrayed her, but she forgave me. And I learned from her that some things matter more than money, sweetie, like having a clear conscience and being kind. Hope thought for a minute, then asked, Is she that Aunt Emily you talk about when I'm sleeping? I froze, so she'd heard my whispers in the dark. Yeah, that's her. I like her, Hope said. She's pretty and nice. I smiled, tears coming again. She likes you too. We kept walking under the clear Texas sky. Golden sunlight spread across the little street, across Hope's blonde hair, across my tired shoulders. I remember that day, the day the test showed 2 lines, the day my life turned in a different direction. Those 2 lines brought 2 destinies. A baby was born, and a woman learned to live with her guilt. 2 lines, 2 lives. I knew I'd never forget what I'd done. The scars were still there, in my heart, in Michael's heart, in Emily's heart. But I also knew I could keep living by loving hope, by working hard, by never making the same mistakes, and by, every single day, thanking Emily, the woman who gave me a second chance. Mommy, Hope tugged my hand, what's for dinner? Your favorite, spaghetti with meat sauce. Yay, she squealed, running ahead a few steps, then turning back to wait for me. I watched my daughter dance ahead, her hair flying in the wind. My heart felt strangely peaceful. Maybe after everything, life does give us second chances. If we're brave enough to take them, and if we have someone like Emily, someone noble enough to forgive, strong enough to move forward. Evening lights stretched long across the little street. I walked faster, catching up to Hope's small figure. In the distance, she turned back and waved. Mommy, hurry up. I smiled, and I kept walking.